Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Um,
Today we're going to be talking about a book that so many of you have probably already heard of.
hmm
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, it's a classic.
It really is. It's a book that's had a huge impact on how people think about money and building wealth.
And it's not just for like finance experts or anything.
Exactly. It's written in a way that's really accessible and engaging.
Yeah, it's full of stories and examples that make these concepts really easy to understand.
So whether you're just starting out on your financial journey or you're already well on your way.
There's definitely something in here for everyone.
Absolutely. Now, the
Yeah,
core idea of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is this contrast between two dads.
right. The rich dad and the poor dad.
And can you tell us a bit more about who these dads represent?
Sure. So the poor dad is actually based on Kiyosaki's own father,
Oh, wow.
who was a teacher, a very educated man,
Mm-hmm.
but he struggled financially throughout his life.
Interesting.
And then there's the rich dad,
Yeah.
who was his best friend's father,
Mm.
and this dad was an entrepreneur who built a successful business empire.
So it's not really about like biological fathers,
No, not at all.
but more about these two contrasting mindsets toward money.
Exactly. It's about two different approaches to thinking about wealth and financial success.
I see. So the poor dad represents kind of like the traditional path.
Right. The idea of getting a good education,
Yeah.
finding a stable job, working hard,
Mm-hmm.
and saving money.
The kind of path that a lot of us are raised to believe is the way to go.
Yeah. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that path.
Right.
But Kiyosaki argues that it might not necessarily lead to the kind of financial freedom that many people desire.
Okay. And the rich dad, on the other hand, what does he represent?
Well, he's all about financial literacy,
Okay.
entrepreneurship, and building assets that generate income.
So it's about making your money work for you.
Right. Instead of just trading your time for money.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does this play out in real life? Like, can you give us an example of what an asset would be versus just like earning a higher salary?
Sure. So imagine you get a raise at your job.
Mm.
That's great.
Yeah.
You're earning more money,
More money.
but you're still essentially trading your time for that money.
True.
Now, imagine you take some of that extra income and invest in a rental property.
Okay.
That property can generate passive income through rent payments.
Ah, so even when you're not actively working,
Exactly. The property is working for you.
it's like having a side hustle that earns money even while you sleep.
Precisely. And that's the power of assets.
Makes you think about your own situation, doesn't it? Are you just relying on your job or are you building other income streams?
And this leads us to another key concept that Kiyosaki emphasizes,
Yeah.
the difference between assets and liabilities.
Okay, I think a lot of people get confused about this.
Yeah, it's a common misconception.
Like we tend to think of things we own as assets.
Right. But Kiyosaki kind of flips that on its head.
So what's an example of something we might think is an asset but actually isn't?
Well, a common example is a car.
Really?
Most people see their car as an asset.
I mean, it gets you places, right?
Yeah, but it also costs you money.
Okay.
You've got gas, insurance, maintenance,
True.
and it depreciates in value over time.
So it's actually taking money out of your pocket.
Exactly.
So in Kiyosaki's framework, a car is actually a liability.
In most cases, yes.
Wow, mind blown. So then what would be a true asset in his view?
We talked about rental properties.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
Okay.
You're receiving rental income, which is money flowing into your pocket.
So it's putting money in your pocket instead of taking it out.
Exactly. And that's the key distinction.
I see. It makes you look at all your possessions differently.
Definitely. It's a great exercise to take inventory of your things and ask yourself, is this an asset or a liability?
I like that. It's a simple question, but it can really shift your perspective on how you think about money and your belongings.
Absolutely. And this leads us to another one of Kiyosaki's big ideas,
Yeah.
the concept of minding your own business.
Okay, now that sounds a bit cryptic.
He's not literally talking about starting a business.
I was going to say, not all of us are cut out for that.
Right. He's talking about focusing on building your personal asset column.
So not just focusing on your job and your income,
Exactly. It's about having your money work for you.
even when you're not actively working.
Right. It's about creating a system where your money is generating more money.
So like that teacher who also owns rental properties, they've got their steady job, but they're also building wealth through those assets.
Precisely. That's a great example of minding your own business.
It's about creating that financial security and freedom.
Exactly.
It really makes you think about what steps you could take to start building your own asset column.
even if it's small steps.
Yeah, every little bit counts.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
this ties in with another key concept that Kiyosaki introduces, the power of understanding taxes and corporations.
Okay, now that might not sound like the most exciting topic,
I know it can sound a bit dry.
but I have a feeling he has a way of making it relevant.
He does. He argues that the wealthy don't just earn more money.
Mm-hmm.
They understand how to use the system to their advantage.
So it's about being smart about how you manage your money.
Exactly. It's about understanding the rules of the game and playing it strategically.
Okay, so it's not about dodging taxes or anything illegal,
Not at all.
but more about understanding how to legally reduce your tax burden and protect your wealth.
Exactly. He talks a lot about the benefits of incorporating a business.
Even if you're not a big company.
Even if you're a freelancer or a solopreneur,
Interesting.
there can be tax advantages and legal protections that can really benefit you.
It's like leveling up your financial game.
It is. It's about moving beyond just basic budgeting and saving and starting to think about the bigger picture.
I like that. So we've got this idea of building assets,
Mm.
minding your own business, and understanding the system.
And all of this is part of what Kiyosaki calls inventing money.
Okay, now that sounds intriguing. What does he mean by that?
He believes that true wealth builders don't wait for opportunities to come to them.
They go out and create their own opportunities.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and taking action.
It's about having a vision and then figuring out how to make it happen.
He uses the example of finding a rundown property, renovating it, and turning it into a profitable rental.
So it's not just about finding a good deal.
Right. It's about using your creativity and skills to create value where others might not see it.
It's inspiring, isn't it? It's like a challenge to think outside the box and see the potential in things.
And he emphasizes that this kind of approach requires a certain skill set.
Okay, what kind of skills are we talking about?
He's a big believer in the power of sales,
Yeah.
investing, and entrepreneurship.
So it's not just about finding a high-paying job.
No. It's about developing skills that can be applied across different ventures and opportunities.
Skills that can help you create wealth in various ways.
He gives the example of taking a sales job to learn how to persuade, negotiate, and build relationships.
Those are valuable skills no matter what you do in life.
Exactly. It's about investing in yourself.
Makes you think about your own skills, doesn't it? What are you good at? What could you learn that would boost your earning potential?
And Kiyosaki also acknowledges that this journey isn't always easy.
I can imagine.
He dedicates a whole chapter to overcoming obstacles.
Because we all face challenges and setbacks.
Right. He talks about fear, cynicism, and laziness as being major roadblocks to success.
Those are some pretty universal challenges, I'd say.
He encourages readers to confront those fears head on.
Don't let fear hold you back.
Exactly. He argues that fear is often based on ignorance or lack of experience.
So the more you learn and the more you do, the less scary it becomes.
Precisely. And even small steps can lead to big results over time.
It's about consistency and persistence.
And that brings us to his final chapter, Getting Started.
Where he gives practical advice on how to put these principles into action.
He emphasizes the importance of setting clear financial goals,
Okay.
committing to continuous learning, and starting to invest, even with small amounts.
That's reassuring because sometimes all this talk about financial freedom can feel overwhelming.
I know. It can be like, where do I even begin?
Exactly. But he breaks it down into manageable steps.
He talks about the power of compound interest
Mhm.
and how small, consistent investments can grow significantly over time.
It's that classic idea of paying yourself first.
Right. Setting aside a portion of your income before you even think about spending.
It's about building those good financial habits.
Exactly.
So the takeaway here is that it's never too late to start.
Right.
And even small steps can make a big difference over time.
And Rich Dad, Poor Dad isn't without its criticisms.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely sparked a lot of debate over the years.
But whether you agree with everything he says or not,
It's undeniable that it's a book that makes you think differently about money.
and it encourages you to take control of your financial future.
And that's a powerful message. So now let's get into some of those debates and explore the different perspectives on Kiyosaki's ideas.
Sounds good. Let's dive in. One of the things that's always struck me about Rich Dad, Poor Dad
Yeah.
is how much it's gotten people talking.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
It's definitely a conversation starter.
it is. And like any book that really challenges the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to have its share of criticisms.
Yeah, not everyone's going to agree with everything.
Right.
Okay, so let's get into some of those criticisms.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that people have pushed back on when it comes to Kiyosaki's ideas?
Well, one of the common critiques is that he sometimes oversimplifies things.
Okay.
Like, his examples are great.
Hmm.
They're really engaging, but they don't always capture the full complexity of investing or starting a business.
Right. It's like he gives you the basic roadmap, but there are a lot of potholes along the way.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that what works for one person might not work for another.
It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
No, not at all.
So you really have to do your own research.
Right. And maybe even talk to a financial advisor,
Yeah. Get some professional guidance.
especially before making any big decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What else? What are some other criticisms?
Another one I hear a lot is that he sometimes downplays the risks involved.
Okay.
Like, he's all about taking action and going for it,
Which is great.
which is great, but yeah, there's always the potential for failure,
And those losses can be tough.
especially if you're not starting with a lot of capital.
Mm-hmm. So it's like he's maybe a little too optimistic sometimes.
Maybe a little bit. It's important to be realistic about the risks.
Yeah. And to have a plan for managing those risks.
Absolutely.
Okay. What else?
Well, another critique is that he's very focused on individual wealth.
Okay.
He doesn't really talk about social responsibility or ethical considerations.
Yeah, that's an important point. Like, what about giving back to the community?
Right. Or thinking about the impact of your financial decisions on others.
So it's like his focus is very much on personal gain.
It is. And for some people, that might feel a bit narrow.
Right.
It's not the whole picture.
No. So it's important to kind of balance those things.
Exactly.
Think about your own values and how you want to use your wealth.
And how you want to impact the world around you.
Yeah. So it sounds like Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a book that you should approach with a critical eye.
I think so. It's not a financial Bible.
Right.
It's a starting point.
It's a way to spark a conversation.
Exactly. It gets you thinking about these things.
And then you can kind of go from there.
And do your own research.
And figure out what works best for you.
Right. One of the things I do appreciate about Kiyosaki's approach, though,
Yeah.
is his emphasis on continuous learning.
He's a big believer in investing in your financial education.
Absolutely. He talks about reading books,
Attending a seminar.
finding mentors.
Yeah, like don't just rely on what you learned in school.
Right. The world of finance is constantly changing.
You got to stay up to date.
And be willing to learn new things.
And he doesn't just mean formal education either.
Mm.
It's about being curious, asking questions.
Yeah, like being a lifelong learner.
It's like financial knowledge is something you're constantly building.
Right. It's not a one-time thing.
It's an ongoing process.
Exactly.
And I think that's something we can all benefit from.
Definitely.
No matter where you are in your financial journey,
The more you know
the more empowered you are.
to make good decisions.
I know some people can feel intimidated by all the information out there.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
Like, where do you even begin?
Right. But Kiyosaki's advice is to just start somewhere.
Okay.
Pick one thing,
One book, one podcast.
one course,
Yeah.
anything.
And just dive in.
Don't let yourself get paralyzed by the sheer amount of information.
Yeah, just take that first step.
And remember,
Yeah.
it's a journey, not a destination.
I like that.
There's always more to learn.
It's about constantly growing and evolving.
Exactly. Another thing I appreciate about Kiyosaki's approach is his focus on mindset.
Oh, yeah. He talks a lot about that.
He says that your beliefs about money can really impact your financial success.
It's about having that wealthy mindset
Right. It's about believing in yourself.
and believing in your ability to create wealth.
It's about shifting from a scarcity mentality to an abundance mentality.
I love that. It's like instead of focusing on what you don't have,
Yeah.
you focus on the possibilities.
And on what you can create.
And that can really open up new opportunities.
It can. It can change your whole perspective.
Okay, now let's talk about one of the most discussed aspects of Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Yeah.
Kiyosaki's views on real estate.
He loves real estate.
He's a huge advocate for it.
He is. He sees it as a powerful tool for building wealth.
And he uses a lot of his own personal experiences as examples.
Yeah, he talks about how he used real estate to create financial freedom.
Now, I know some people are skeptical of real estate investing.
Yeah, especially in today's market.
It can feel risky.
And it's definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme.
But I think Kiyosaki's point is that when it's done strategically, with careful planning and research,
it can be a really solid long-term investment.
he emphasizes the importance of understanding the market.
Doing your due diligence.
Yeah, like not just jumping in blindly.
And not getting caught up in the hype.
It's about treating real estate like a business,
Exactly.
not a gamble,
It's about building a portfolio of income-producing properties
that generate consistent cash flow.
and appreciate in value over time.
And that takes patience and discipline.
Definitely. Now, Even though Kiyosaki is a big fan of real estate,
Hmm.
he also talks about the importance of diversification.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So
Exactly.
he encourages people to explore other asset classes as well.
Like stocks and bonds.
Precious metals, maybe,
Right. It's about creating a balanced portfolio.
that can weather different economic conditions.
And that's where financial literacy comes in again.
Because the more you understand about different investments,
The better equipped you are to make good decisions.
and the more confident you'll feel about managing your money.
Exactly.
So whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting out,
Rich Dad, Poor Dad offers a lot of food for thought
it's a book that challenges you to think differently about money.
and to take control of your financial future.
And it's a reminder that true wealth is about more than just money.
It's about freedom and choice.
It's about living a life that aligns with your values.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
but there's so much more to explore in this book.
Definitely. We encourage you to check it out.
And see what resonates with you.
Yeah. But before we wrap up,
I have one final thought.
I was thinking about this one idea from the book that kind of sums it all up.
Okay, what is it?
It's not so much about how much money you make. It's about what you do with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not just about earning a lot.
No, it's about making your money work for you.
It's about having a plan.
Exactly. Having a plan and making conscious choices.
So you're not just living paycheck to paycheck.
Right? And you're actually building something.
It's about creating a life you actually want.
Not just the one you kind of fall into.
Exactly.
And you know what's crazy?
Right.
Is how much Rich Dad, Poor Dad still resonates today.
I know, right?
It's like it was written yesterday.
It's timeless in a way.
Those core ideas about financial literacy,
Huh?
building assets, having the right mindset,
Those are always going to be relevant.
and maybe even more so now.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
With all the uncertainty in the world,
With the economy, inflation.
the job market's all over the place.
Exactly. It's like the perfect time to really take control of your finances.
Because you never know what's going to happen.
Right. You got to be prepared.
And I think that's what Kiyosaki is really trying to get across.
Yeah, he wants people to be empowered,
To not feel like victims of circumstance.
to take charge of their own future.
And one of his big points is that
Yeah.
traditional education kind of fails us in this area.
Oh, totally. Like, they don't teach you this stuff in school.
No, you're just kind of expected to figure it out on your own.
Right. Like, good luck out there, kid.
And then you wonder why so many people struggle with money.
Exactly. So he's really challenging us to educate ourselves.
To learn about this stuff on our own.
Yeah, to question the status quo.
And to really understand how money works.
Like, it's almost a whole different language.
Yeah, it really is.
And once you learn that language,
It's like a whole new world opens up.
you can start making smarter decisions.
You can start building the life you want.
And it's not easy.
No?
It takes time and effort.
But it's so worth it.
Because in the end,
Yeah.
it's not really about the money itself.
It's about what the money represents.
It's about freedom.
It's about having choices.
It's about security,
And peace of mind.
being able to do the things you love.
Yeah. Without having to constantly worry about money.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Yeah.
what's one thing you would say to our listeners
One piece of advice.
to kind of kickstart their journey towards financial freedom?
That's a good question.
What's that one little step they could take today?
I would say
Yeah.
just start learning.
Okay.
Pick up a book, listen to a podcast, take a course,
Anything to just start expanding your knowledge,
because the more you know
the more empowered you'll be.
and the more control you'll have over your own financial future.
That's great advice.
Thanks.
Well, that about wraps it up for our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
It's been fun.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Definitely.
But as always, we encourage you to go deeper.
Read the book
Explore these ideas.
and figure out what works best for you.
And most importantly,
Hmm.
take action.
Don't just let this information sit there.
Put it to work.
Start building the life you want.
Thanks for joining us.
And until next time, keep learning and keep growing.